Hey everybody, this video is going to go over the PowerPoint on introductory paragraphs. So we've already learned about thesis statements, right, and how crucial they are to an essay and that they appear typically at the end of your introduction, at the very least somewhere in the introductory paragraph. But what else does the introductory paragraph contain? How do you make sure you have a good introductory paragraph? What is it supposed to do? That's what we're going to talk about with this PowerPoint. Just as the thesis statement itself is crucial to an essay, the whole introductory paragraph is pretty darn important because that is where you get your reader's attention, that's where you set the tone for everything, and oftentimes if it's not a strong intro, if it's, really weak, people will stop reading. They won't even get to the body of the essay. They'll just stop. So having a good introduction is super important. It gives structure and meaning to everything else that you present in the rest of the essay. It gives your reader access to your argument or the content of your paper, the purpose, and it keeps them focused, from the first word to the last word. It's usually about 10% of your overall essay. So for example, if you have an essay that is 1,000 words, your intro would probably be about 100 words. That's not a solid rule, but it's just, a nice guide for you to think about. There are several things that an introductory paragraph needs to do, right? 5 things that an intro will often do is grab your reader's attention, lead into your topic, right, and stress its importance, provide background information, possibly, let your reader know somehow what your purpose is, why you're writing about this topic, what you want them to get out of it, and your main point, your thesis statement. So those 5 things are often accomplished in an introductory paragraph, but there are 3 of them that are crucial, right? You have to grab your reader's attention somehow. You have to pull them in. Especially today, we are so busy, information is coming at us all the time, and you have to make sure that you can get your reader's attention right away and make sure that they continue reading. Second thing that an introductory paragraph has to do is it has to identify your topic and its importance, right? Why you're writing about it, why we should care about it. And then it has to contain the thesis statement, right? So those 3 things every intro should do. First thing I want to talk about is how to grab your reader's attention. It's what we call a grabber, all right? Not only does it grab the reader's attention, but however you decide to do that, it should relate to your topic in some way. It should not be some random phrase or random sentence that you put at the beginning just to grab your reader's attention, and then which has nothing to do with the actual topic you're discussing or what you're going to be doing in the essay. It does have to relate, right? And it should allow for a smooth transition that to lead into your topic and your main point. Okay. In the following slides, right, slides 7 through 13, I go over different types of introductory techniques. Okay. So the first one is like your general or standard type of introductory paragraph. You simply start talking about your topic in a general way, and then you end with your thesis and the main points that you're going to discuss in the body of the essay. So any person who has lived in the 20th century has seen a lot of changes take place in almost all areas of human existence. Some people are excited by the challenges that these changes offer. Others want to return to the simpler lifestyle of the past. Then the thesis statement. The 20th century has certain advantages, such as higher standard of living for many, but it also has some disadvantages, such as a polluted environment, the depersonalization of human relationships, and the weakening of spiritual values. So they brought us in this very general way, talking about all the changes that have taken place in the 20th century, and narrowed the focus, and then gave us the thesis statement with the main points at the end. kind of your standard introductory paragraph. This is where you want to start if you are having trouble coming up with an introductory technique. And you might even leave it in this form, especially if you're dealing with a topic that is interesting, that people are talking about, that people are intrigued by, or something that's very accessible to them, something that they're familiar with, right? Talking about how much life has changed, in the 20th, from the 20th century, that's easy. That's accessible. We understand it, and we're living it, so we're kind of automatically drawn to it a little bit, right? But there are other ways of grabbing your reader's attention that might be a little more successful. So the next type is an anecdote. This is where you begin by telling a very brief, true story that somehow relates to your thesis. So this example. In the spring of 2011, I had just returned home from parent-teacher conferences to find my dad's dog missing. We had been watching him for several days, and it allowed him to go in and out with the doggy door because we knew we would be gone all day and did not want him going pee in our house. It was 8 o'clock p.m. and roughly 25 degrees outside. We spent the whole night out walking, calling for him, driving around the neighborhood, and hanging missing dog signs. This experience prompted me to want others to be aware of the requirements necessary when dog sitting. In order to survive dog sitting, one must have a safe place for the dog, establish dominance over the pet early on, and understand the diet and exercise requirements of the pet. So, the rest of the essay is not about that experience of losing her dad's dog, but that experience prompted the content of the essay. That's kind of the catalyst for it. Something that really happened to her that made her want to write about the things that you need to be aware of if you're going to, be a pet sitter. But that true story directly related to the topic, right? You want to make sure that that is always the case. Don't want to have a true story about something really funny that happened to you, an embarrassing moment, but then that's actually not what the essay is about. It has to be related. Alright, so the next type of introductory technique is to use statistics. So somewhere in the introduction you're going to quote some very startling or interesting numbers related to your thesis. So according to an article in Family Safety and First Aid published by Berkeley Books, every 45 seconds a fire breaks out in an American home, 700,000 residences aflame each year, and 16 times a day somebody dies in one of these burning homes. These statistics are frightening and should not be taken lightly. The best way to deal with the possibility of loss from fire is to plan ahead before it happens. Otherwise, it is too late. In order not to become one of these statistics, Americans need to equip their homes with safety devices, set and adhere to safety rules, and practice a family escape plan in order to protect their families. So those statistics directly related to the topic and the thesis and the main points of this essay. A word of advice, though, if you use statistics in your introductory paragraph, is make sure they are easy to understand. In this case, it is not hard to wrap our brains around the information that they gave us. Every 45 seconds, a fire breaks out in an American home. And then they take that further. We don't have to do the math, clearly. 700,000 residences aflame each year. And 16 times a day, somebody dies in one of these burning homes. We can understand all of that information. Easy for us to wrap our brains around. You don't want to include very dense, difficult statistics in your intro, right? You want to make it very easy to understand, and we can visualize it, right? But if they are startling enough, they can work to grab your reader's attention for sure. The next type of introductory technique is one of my favorites, and that is the question. So you begin by asking an important question that relates to your topic, but not only that, that the rest of your essay is very likely going to answer, right? So here's an example. Have you ever wanted to play a sport that is fast and requires a lot of skill? Have you ever wanted a competitive game that involves a lot of endurance? If you have, then lacrosse is a great sport for you. It is a game of thrills and excitement that can focus your mind and push your body. Lacrosse is a great sport because of the game's speed, the aerobic endurance needed to play, and the strategies involved in gameplay. Alright, so the question asked, have you ever wanted to play a sport that is fast and requires a lot of skill? Have you ever wanted a competitive game that involves a lot of endurance? Those questions directly relate to that thesis statement. And the cool thing about asking a question right at the beginning is we just can't help ourselves. We try to answer it. So if I pick something up and read it and it starts off with a question, I just automatically, my mind starts trying to answer it. Now I might quickly realize I don't know the answer, but I'm going to think about it immediately. So you've already got your reader kind of hooked at that point. If you can make it a question that you then explore in the body of the essay, you really have them hooked, and you keep them hooked. The really nice thing about using a question, and this is why it's one of my favorite introductory techniques, is it gives you a built-in concluding technique. So we're going to talk about conclusions in another lesson, but I just want you to think about this right now, why using a question is so nice, because you can come back to that question at the end, come full circle. You can do that with a lot of these introductory techniques, but a question is so easy to do it with. Alright, so make sure that it deals with the topic directly, but don't forget about it when you go to write your conclusion. You can come back to that question and use it to help craft the ending of the essay. The next type of introductory technique is current events. So this is where you're going to refer to a well-known recent event, something that's happened recently, that your readers are already going to be familiar with. It's going to be fresh in their minds. Again, it has to directly relate to your thesis, not just some random current event. And don't try to, don't be Stretch Armstrong. Don't try to make it fit your topic. Make sure it really does, okay? So this example. This morning's news reported that a young girl, age 5, was abducted from her classroom. As a frantic search ensued, people across the Philadelphia area were shocked to find that the kidnapper walked right into the child's classroom and demanded that the young kindergartner leave with the woman. The child managed to escape and was found, but she had been attacked by her captors. Obviously, safety procedures broke down and this poor child paid the price. In order to assure the safety of all children, schools across the country must review safety procedures, tighten safety protocols where necessary, and assure all staff members are properly trained. Alright, so this current event, everybody in this area would have known about it. They would know exactly what the author is referring to, and it directly relates to what she wants to accomplish in this essay. Okay. Nice thing about current events is, because it is something that's very fresh in most readers' minds, they're immediately going to form an attachment to it. They're going to have an association with it, and they're already starting to buy in. They're already starting to want to read the rest. Next type is using a quote, right? So famous author, famous person, famous somebody, use a quote from them. And again, has to directly relate to your topic and your thesis. But, anytime we see something in quotation marks, we kind of are drawn to that too, just like with the question. So in this example, the author Aldous Huxley once said, "To his dog, every man is Napoleon, hence the constant popularity of dogs. As you consider the pet you would like to have share your life, it is Huxley's quote that sums up why a dog is the best choice. Because of its sense of loyalty, its ability to protect you, and its great companionship, a dog is the perfect pet." So the quote they chose to use by Aldous Huxley, who's a famous author, totally relates to what they're trying to accomplish in the rest of the essay, totally related to the thesis statement. You might not know who Aldous Huxley is, but, the quote still made you pause and, you thought about it. Okay? If you do pick someone that is super well known, then that's, even better, because not only will they pause to read the quote, but they're going to recognize the person who said it. But you don't always have to pick someone who's recognized by everyone. You know, a lot of people out there would know who Aldous Huxley was, but not everybody. But it still works. You know, it still works. The main thing is don't choose a quote that has nothing to do with your topic. It has to be relatable. And the last type of introductory technique is the what if technique. So it's kind of like an anecdote in that it's kind of a story, except in this case it's not a true story. You are asking your readers to imagine something. What if? So imagine you are taking a math test, but you just cannot concentrate. What you really need is a piece of gum to chew so you can chew on that difficult problem involving the slope equation that you cannot possibly remember. Everyone wants that refreshing piece of gum in his or her mouth during school, and it keeps going. But they got us to imagine something in the beginning, and when you do that, again, you're just kind of automatically reeling your readers in. Imagine you are taking a math test, but you just cannot concentrate. Oh my gosh, I know exactly what that's like. I'm totally imagining that. And then I keep reading, and now I'm hooked. Like, oh my goodness, please tell me how chewing gum is going to help. And, you know, I hope that not only do you convince me, but you convince schools to allow it to happen also if it really produces these kinds of benefits. So they got me to imagine it, I totally related, and now I'm invested in the essay and what they are trying to accomplish in it. Alright, so several different types of introductions that you, introductory techniques that you can use to start your paper. And you, again, you might just start with that very first one, kind of like that general standard intro. And then as, you know, after you've drafted and done some revising, you might come back and work on the intro a little more and be like, okay, this is good. How can I make it better? Especially knowing what I did in the body of the essay. Is there a question I could ask to start this off? Is there a quote I could use? Is there a current event I could refer to? Right? So you might not know which technique you want to use right from the very beginning, but just get the introduction written and get the thesis statement in there. You can always come back and revise it. Always come back and play around with it. But you do want something that grabs your reader's attention, because that is the first thing an intro has to do. The next thing is what we call the lead. Alright, so after you've gotten your reader's attention, you have to lead them into your subject. And you've seen that in the examples that we just looked at. They all did that. They used the introductory technique, and then they just kept leading us to their topic and eventually to their thesis statement. So you grab their attention, and then you have to sustain their interest, right? You give context, background information, talk about the importance of your topic, the relevance of it, whatever, and then you get to your thesis statement, okay? However you decide to start your essay, you want to make sure it's interesting. You want to make sure that the reader wants to keep reading. That's the whole goal of the intro, is to make them want to keep reading and let them know what they're going to be reading. Right? You want to make sure you have that thesis statement in there too. You know, the intro and the thesis statement go hand in hand. A good thesis statement is necessary, and maybe it could save an otherwise poor introductory paragraph, but not always. If you can't grab our attention and you can't lead us through your topic, we might not even get to your thesis statement. If it's boring, if you ramble, if it doesn't make sense, we're not even going to make it to the last sentence of the introductory paragraph. So you do want to make sure that you're thinking about the introductory techniques. And even if you don't really use, one of the types that I have in the PowerPoint, even if it's not one of those exact techniques, at least remember what an introduction is supposed to accomplish. Grab your reader's attention, lead them into your topic, and lead them to your thesis statement. Okay? If you have any questions about introductory paragraphs, let me know. Otherwise, we'll be talking about conclusions and body paragraphs.